Hello. Welcome to the episode 6 review of The Rings of Power. And after 5 episodes of setting up, figuring out who is what, where are they going, what do they have in mind, we finally see a big battle sequence, right? And so much so that the entire episode is dedicated to the battle in the Southlands. So guys, first thoughts on the episode, kaisa laga?
देख मेरे को तो लग रहा है कि ये so Kautuk, I think we were wrong. That last episode was not the calm before the storm. मैं बोल रहा है एक एपिसोड में अगर एक पूरा घंटा सिर्फ बैटल हुआ है तो अगला 2 एपिसोड में सोच क्या क्या करने वाला है ये लोग bro. It's
No,
big.
I think this was like your big battle, right?
Oh.
Mount Doom has exploded. So your
By the way, 1 minute. Mount Doom has exploded, right? As fans of the show, Mount Doom is as like an important character as any of the others, right? That you would see, oh shit, we know this is Mount Doom, it's going to erupt and it's going to happen. And you see before it actually happened in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, how it was and what led to it opening up. So we'll talk about that. Kautuk, sorry, continue. I was just excited about the fact that we saw Mount Doom.
No, exactly. So your last 2-3 minutes of this episode, you see Mount Doom erupt. And I suspect your next 2 episodes are going to be 2 things. So the next episode is going to be the lowest point for all these characters, where it's the aftermath of what they thought was a victory, but turned into a very swift defeat. The aftermath of that. Plus, how many people survived the pyroclastic flow of the Mount Doom itself? And your final episode, I suspect, is going to be a very tantalizing episode because it's going to tease the coming of.
I just want to please see Sauron. Like, दिखा दो एक बार यार. कब से anticipate करते जा रहे हैं? Because again now, if you watch this episode closely, all hints at Halbrand being another physical form of Sauron, right? They've been hinting at it from the beginning. They've been talking. You see the kind of words he uses, or the phrases he's used, or the kind of person that he is, and how it might be Sauron.
Dude,
in this episode, it came even closer to almost being like, yes, Halbrand is Sauron.
That's what I was about to say. Like, it's no longer 4 shadowing. Now it's 5 shadowing, 6 shadowing. Like, it's so there.
Yeah.
Like, and that'd be, I mean, you could fully pull the rug from under us and be like, got you.
I think that is also a very high possibility that they'll make us believe to that point and then boom, it's changed. But okay, so obviously the entire battle sequence that happened, really cool stuff because you expect, like, when a battle scene is about to start, you sort of make a story in your head as to what you think will happen. How will the bad guys come in? What will the good guys do? And how will they escape, etc. But they almost what do you call it? Subvert. That's the word, right? Subverted what you would expect from that. Which also began with a very classic 70-minute speech by Adar to the orcs. What I'm loving is that throughout, like, you ask any fan, you watch any movie, read any of the books, orcs. But to see one person who's so passionate about his orc family in this episode, it is really cute. Yeah, children. His children.
Dude, you know something? Adar's whole track is it's basically, you can sum it up in one line, which is the troubles and the tribulations of being a single dad.
Yeah.
With like one full roost of kids. But you know what was interesting, like you said, is that very rarely, like usually in any kind of epic war film or any kind of like any film where there is, or any TV show where there are very clear good and bad, right? You never get to see the bad guy's point of view. Or
Ever. When has there been a rousing speech given to an army of henchmen, right? Never. They're always like, dispensable. Arey ja udhar maar, nahi mara to wapas mat aana. Usko maar ke aana.
Feels like Adar also feeling bad that some of his orcs have died, or the fact that he's going to have to send some of them into battle.
Yeah.
Like, he's emotionally attached to them, dude.
No, and obviously in the course of this episode, you find out that you already knew it, but he was one of the first elves who were switched over to the dark side by Morgoth, right? And he prefers to not call himself orc, but Urukhai. which is, I think, again, something
So
to do with
Uruk
like
is the
Uruk is
term
the
for orc.
Orc, yeah, yeah. So you get to see a little bit of Adar's like backstory as to why he is doing what he is doing. And remember, in one of the previous review episodes, I had said that when Waldred asked Adar, "Are you Sauron?" he was pissed off, right? And predicted at that time that this is more to do with he has some sort of Hassan going on with Sauron, and he's not going to be Sauron because
Right.
that was one of the earlier misdirects, right? We thought Adar would actually be Sauron, and then in the course of this episode, you find out why he hates Sauron so much
Adar,
because
How did you
Adar
miss
was that.
that? उसको 100 के साथ 36 का आंकड़ा है. How you missed it?
sorry.
No, but Adar is that project manager, no, who like is protecting his his subordinates.
yeah, yeah.
कि यार deadlines बहुत short है यार.
जल्दी जल्दी मेरे को टनल बना के चाहिए मेरे को माउंट डूम फोड़ना है सर मतलब हाउ वी आर ऑर्क सर
So give us few more weeks.
great engineering marvel done by the orcs in making the tunnel. You finally find out what the reason
tunnel.
for the tunnel was. You know, earlier I thought it's because it helps them sort of
Navigate.
escape under the radar, be away from direct sunlight and all of that. But this, you find out in this episode that it was a twofold benefit. It was not only for easy navigation, but also helped in the eruption of Mount Doom.
All right, wait 1 second. So we're jumping all over the place to the most exciting moments of the episode, but let's just go through it as it happened, right? So initially, again, now very interestingly, we start the show with Adar planning for war, and you see again, much like you've seen in previous episodes, you see this little bit of elvish culture in him.
Yeah.
Where before he goes to battle, he performs like a
planting of the seed.
The planting of the seed.
And you see Arondir do that as well on the other side, you know. So
it also opens, right? Like on that thing where he's taking the like soil. So he's
with
got
his manicured nails.
With his orc manicured nails.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, what I honestly liked about just the way the battle structure was told out, and I'll try not to jump, but in every subplot of the battle, something happened which you were like, oh, you know, each time you sort of were like, oh, so even when, and this is right at the end of it, but like even the Numenor arc of the battle, right? You're like, chance ही नहीं है bro, कैसा पहुंचेगा middle earth, इधर से traffic बहुत रहेगा. But you know, like it's just it's pretty exciting to almost, they were like Kautuk, I think you were talking about it, you want to probably explain it, just the fact that it was in smaller bits, it was in 5 acts, right? Like the whole episode. So if you were to
no, and the thing is that the episode had this very nice like sort of like
graph up
a graph where you see the sheer number of orcs that are heading towards this very small stronghold filled with very limited people who aren't really fighters, right? And when you see that long line that goes all the way down the mountain where they're carrying the torches, exactly, and you're like, dude, there is no way that this is, how are they going to get out of this? And when they enter, the whole the whole tower is abandoned. There's no one there except for one Arondir, right? Now you're like, how the heck will he get out of this? Like, what is his plan? And the plan was great. Like it was
to break the tower of Ostrith, right? That was very cool. Like the way they showed that sequence was, again, like I said, it was a very fresh battle sequence where you imagine how it's going to be, and it just turns out to be something totally different. So it literally one guy taking on an entire army and managing to escape with. So they go back to the village and start fortifying it, right?
Sort of like also like locking them in so that he can destroy as many as he can at the same time. Just like, it was pretty great. And then you're like, oh, chalo, bach gaye. But it's just relentless, right? Like the second part of it. And then the third part where you sort of realize that, oh no, I've killed John, my neighbor.
That's what I was talking about in the last episode. I think one of the things that they would have to face is the fact that you have to, like, you know, there is this concept, right, where it's called depersonalization. So when it's an orc right? You don't consider them as us, you consider them as them.
Then, yeah.
Right, they
the
are
enemy.
completely
That's what it is.
different, so it's okay to kill them. But like the minute it's us, it becomes a big like sort of like as a moral conundrum. So for them to go through that, and at the same time we are cutting back to what is happening to the people who've left from Numenor.
Yeah.
So you see Isildur, and he had this moment with his horse on the ship, Beric, right? And he's eating an apple, and he gives Beric a little bit of the apple, and then he goes back up and he's eating the apple. He throws it into the sea. Like, so you see that little moment. Then he has a moment with Galadriel,
Yeah.
and also you find out, and I suspect
A little bit about his mom. Again,
Yeah.
very, very ambiguous. So you don't, because the fact that they're not going into it itself, I feel is a sign that something is going to pop a little later, because they've been very sketchy about her details. Exactly.
and the mother was mentioned twice in
Twice,
the
yeah,
episode,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I suspect that you remember the voice
The
that
voice he
Isildur-
hears, yeah. Yeah. Even I
Yeah,
felt it was his.
Oh, you
Mom.
don't think it's Theo's mom?
No,
Bronwyn?
Bronwyn was
Yeah.
calling Isildur.
Yeah. No? Oh,
Baba,
okay.
you're watching the wrong show.
No, Kautuk, do you think, and Thakur, you also, do you think it was like, do you think that the orcs were almost kind to the people because they sent the people in disguise of orcs? Had they actually sent people as people, would they be able to fight? Like, because the other guys were fighting like they were orcs, like they were fighting like they needed to end this set of people. So I'm just saying, like, were they kind enough to say, "Ki,
No,
don't
in
kill your
fact,
neighbor"?
it was not kind, because like you're sending them as cannon fodder,
Yeah.
because it was a planned attack, right? Which is what that when that reversal happens, it's very interesting, because initially the group of that village believes that they've won.
Yeah.
Yes.
That they've defeated all the orcs that are there, and eventually they realize that this was just one small party that had been sent, mostly consisting of some orcs and some humans.
Humans, yeah.
And then to find out that they were ambushed, and then the arrows start flying in,
Yeah.
right? And they were just sitting ducks.
But again, like I said, right, it's because it was so relentless, you could actually feel it. You know what I mean? Like, the first tower
Right.
falls, okay, they're safe, they go back, they're happy. You're like, okay, they won the battle, that's great. Boom, second attack happens with half orcs, half humans. They still managed to win that, right? The
Yeah.
Southlanders and around there, they managed to win it. They're like, okay, we're done. Again, very coolly shot. Because there's one of his tricks is that they all need to cross that bridge so that they come in proper
In
range
yeah,
for
yeah.
that attack to happen, right? And it's such a thing where if you are in that battle, you want to wait till everybody is crossed, but to hold that nerve, they have their entire conversation. Like the key is to know to hold that nerve and not like succumb and just do it beforehand. You know,
Again,
so
like in Border, where they wait for the tanks to come.
yes, exactly.
No, but it, and in fact, Bronwyn and that other girl have that conversation, right? Like as they're trying to light the firestones, or wo jal nahi raha hai, and they look at an orc come towards them while the rest of the party has still not crossed the bridge, and there's that little moment of how they're going to get to it, and then of course, one of them dies. But
By the way, yeah, so that's the other thing, right? Like there's a lot of which I found very like interesting and real. The fact that you see human casualty in the way that it would unfold if
Hearing
this
of
was if this was like a real incident. It's not glossed over. Like usually what happens is that in like a moment like this, you'll just mention them in one line later. Oh, we lost a lot of people.
Yeah.
It was very sad. Here you see it, and kind of like the difference between hearing that line versus seeing it just makes the incident more visceral.
yeah,
like-
you feel it a lot more, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
And in fact, you not only felt it for the humans, you also felt it for the orc. When you saw him, the orc and Arondir, that scene where
WrestleMania.
Dude, that the blood going into Arondir's mouth, because he stabbed the orc in the eye. It was just like wow, that's intense.
Dude,
Yeah,
what a power move from the orc, where he pulls out the knife and the eye, unflinching. Holy moly. Like just seeing that would have been like, chal, I give up, bro.
And then it's
Um,
just dripping, like it's like just dripping in his mouth. And
yeah, that scene could have been longer.
So what was interesting about that was the moment with Arondir and Theo, where so what has happened is you've got this very nice, interesting juxtaposition where Adar has broken into the tavern. He's got everyone surrounded,
like finished. Yeah.
right? And to the knife point. And he has one very simple demand. He says, tell me where the hilt of that sword is.
Yeah.
Right now, Arondir realizes the wider implications, okay, of this demand. The wider implications are that he knows that Adar is going to kill them regardless whether they tell him or they don't tell him.
Yeah.
And so if they're going to die anyway, it's better to at least save the wider world and not tell this guy where the thing is. So he has made a very strong decision of, even if it means losing my loved ones, I will not tell him.
Correct.
Right. However, Theo makes the opposite decision. Theo makes the selfish decision in that moment. He says,
Yeah.
I'm going to forego the rest of humanity to
For my
save
mom.
the one
Save my
human
mom.
I care about, my
Yeah.
mom. Right?
Yeah.
So he
And
makes
you can't also hold it against him at that
Oh,
point,
no,
right?
no,
You're
I
like,
think all of us would do that.
yeah, you would be like, there might be an off chance they let us live. You know, it's okay.
No,
I
no, my
don't
mom
want-
will live. Like,
Yeah.
forget that. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So exactly. So and in that moment, it kind of like tells you also the difference between like why humans are corruptible, because we have weaknesses like love. So and oddly enough, even the best of our virtues can be used against us. That's the frailty of human beings, right?
Correct.
So eventually he gives up the position and they get the hilt. And now what happens next was very interesting, because you hear that one line of dialogue. Ki Waldreg
Yeah.
on this call right
Man
now.
of the match of this episode was Waldreg. It was so annoying that of all the people who would sort of take part in the eruption of Mount Doom, right? From all the possibilities that you had, it was Waldreg.
Yeah. The
Which also,
bartender.
so that was also very cool when they showed how Adar takes Galadriel on this wild horse chase because she feels that he has the hilt on him at that point, right? When he doesn't, he's actually given it to Waldreg, who's then going to use it to open the dam and the floodgates, which eventually lead to the eruption of Mount Doom. That was a very cool sequence also.
And by the way, did you notice that?
It reminded me of, from Lord of the Rings when Arwen
Yeah. And the
runs,
Nazgul are chasing her.
no, the ring wraiths. The
Yeah,
ring wraiths are chasing her. It felt like a hat tip to that scene from Lord of the Rings, which was really good.
Yeah,
No,
and the fact that it was off for all of this, it was just an axe, and then you're like, for sure, problem रहेगा. तो ये तो सही था.
No, so the other thing, did you notice in that sequence? So Galadriel's chasing him on the horse, okay, and she does one nitro boost to the horse.
Yeah.
And she like talks to it in Sindarin, and it speeds up, right? And then Halbrand comes on the other end, and he sort of just like knocks the horse over.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Dude, and for that second, I felt so bad for the horse.
Horse, always, bro.
But-
in any of these sequences, I feel like when
But-
the horse falls.
They were considerate enough to show one full 5-second sequence of the horse is getting up and walking away.
Walking away. Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
So that was great. Yeah, and then
But at this point of time, right, when Halbrand takes Adar off, and that the entire interrogation of Adar as done by Galadriel in this was, in my opinion, one of the best scenes of this episode. Like, because there's so many of the backstories are coming out, so many of things they've hinted at are coming to the fore now, right? When you see Halbrand and he's got that spear sort of a thing in his hand, it looked very Sauron-esque. Because even Sauron has that sort of spear in his hand at that point.
also,
He looks at Adar, he's like, do you remember me?
do you remember me?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Adar's like, who are you? Right? Again, it could be a hat tip of that, even because, by the way, spoiler alert, in case you haven't figured it out yet, but Adar has killed Sauron.
Mm.
Or at
Apparently,
least the physical form of Sauron, because Sauron being the all-powerful being that he is.
But it's apparent.
So that's what he says. He says he has killed Sauron, which could mean just the physical body of Sauron.
Oh, which
At
could
one
also
point.
mean that Halbrand is Sauron's son, dude.
Again,
What?
now you're watching the wrong show.
अरे
What
because
is-
Halbrand का भी बाप मर गया ना. Guys, तुम
This
लोग
is
नहीं समझ रहे. Y'all don't make these parallel connections. Y'all are not watching. Y'all have to watch it with depth.
Are you wearing like an invisible tinfoil hat? Because I can't see it, but I'm sure it's there.
अरे somebody has to create these theories ना to keep the gossip alive in the show.
No, no,
Y'all
but
are all factually saying things about the show. Somebody say na that who is Sauron otherwise.
no. So
एक तो तू उसको सावरन बुलाना बंद कर, वो सावरॉन है.
मैं सावरान बुलाता है और मैं गैंडॉल्फ बुलाता है. तो अभी
ah,
डिसाइड
you said it correctly when you
I
said
know.
it wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
Because my shtick for this thing is to say it wrong.
Yeah, no. So what was interesting was that there's a bunch of these like sort of like hints that he's giving in this particular episode. One is, do you remember me? Right, and there's a suspiciously long pause before Adar says no,
No.
and then he adds like a 2-3 lines on top of that,
Did I kill your child, loved one, etc.
which is interesting because it was done in the presence of Galadriel. Now the question is it a performance done for her benefit? Okay, if you go with the theory that Halbrand is Sauron, right? So was it done to convince her कि ये आदमी, meaning he's fine, like he's not a bad guy. That's one. Now the second is that you have that reversal where initially she stops Halbrand from murdering Adar, and then later when that interrogation scene happens, right, which is also very interesting by the way, because it has lots of like real world parallels where who you think is the good person in any battle depends on
which side you're looking from. Yeah,
no, there's
yeah,
context. Yeah.
So for example, she's got Adar chained and locked up, and she says, give me information, tell me what you know. When he refuses, right, without thinking, even waiting for a second, she immediately says, I'm going to torture your ox.
Yeah.
Right now think about this, like you would associate that kind of behavior with the orcs, with the way they treat people that they've captured, and here she was about to do the exact same thing. So which is why when the dialogue exchange happens,
That's a really good dialogue, right? If you're looking for a successor of Sauron, you should look in the mirror.
Of Morgoth.
Successor,
sorry, yeah.
not Sauron, of Morgoth, you should look in the mirror. So really interesting parallels being drawn on either side. But obviously, once this interrogation happens, then you go and you see eventually Waldrek, who then used the hilt to unlock this dam that opens up, leading to the tunnels that were dug by the orcs. The orcs getting flooded. The water keeps going into Mount Doom, which has erupted. That sequence was bloody good. Like it was a very proper epic sequence, and you're waiting to see something like that, and this episode had it all.
It also when
battle sequence, great like drama building, and then the spectacle at the end was very good.
And when the Mount Doom is erupting, there's so much. Like I think they've even framed it like the first time you see it in Lord of the Rings. Just that angle as you're moving in, and you see the shape and the structure of Mount Doom.
Even that shot when Galadriel standing and that entire ash cloud and stuff which comes in enveloping the whole screen. That was such a beautiful sequence.
By the way, the episode is called Udun.
Yeah, which is old Elvish for hell or something like hell.
Yeah, and it's also one of the names for the strongholds of Morgoth.
Yes.
So
it was also an area. It was like some plateau at some point.
Yeah, and you can't reach it normally. You have to Udun and go.
I like the eagles at the end. Hilarious.
But all in all, I think building up towards a great last 2 episodes. And I think after this heavy battle and the resultant eruption of Mount Doom, I really want to see where they're going to go, because now the aftermath is going to be really great to watch.
I have a feeling there is one more battle left.
100%. I feel that's going to be in the last episode, because you still haven't now. I think in the next one, you'll see Elrond, you'll see Durin, you'll see Harfoot, अपना Meteor, Stranger Man. उन लोग भी तो आने हैं अभी, उन लोग का भी कुछ.
And the thing is, I feel like, as much as this is about the rise of Sauron and the creation of the rings and the downfall of Middle Earth, I think the series is also about the redemption of Galadriel. I think the more episodes have gone by, the more I've realized that her soul is actually compromised completely. And I think my prediction would be that in the like at least the 5 predicted seasons that we have, I think we're going to see her reaching her crescendo as like in terms of
The resurgence.
Yeah, reaching a crescendo as a person consumed by revenge, realizing that revenge is pointless, and the only thing is it achieves is poisoning the person seeking it, right? And then kind of like realizing that you need a different strategy to defeat an evil like Sauron, and it doesn't involve brute force, vengeful attack. So I think that's one of the things that is going to happen.
Superb. And finally, we have the king of the Southland, Halbrand, the reluctant king who, for the last 6 episodes, has said, "No, I don't want to be. I don't want to be. I want to be away." Eventually convinced by Galadriel and annoyed into coming to Middle Earth. Now he's like, "Okay, I guess I'm king."
No, and also like I think he had one moment where like he's king of the Southlands. Everyone's agreed he's king of the Southlands. He must have looked around and be like, "Log thode kam ho gaye na? जनता किधर है?"
And then he looks towards the ocean and he's like, "अरे मेरा castle भी तोड़ दिया है यार, क्या अभी मैं किधर रहेगा?"
Really exciting to see what's gonna happen next. All episodes are streaming on Prime Video every Friday, so make sure you guys watch it, and we'll see you guys again next week for the episode 7 review. Things are all coming together, all leading to a massive crescendo, and hopefully we'll get to see Sauron. Please,
yes, guys, I just want to say things are coming to a hilt, and then we'll be good.
On that note, that's it from this episode of Puns of Power. All right, thank you guys so much for watching our episode 6 review of the Rings of Power. Like I mentioned, the show is streaming every Friday on Prime Video, so watch it. Come, let us know in the comments if we missed out on discussing anything or any theories or fan theories or predictions that you may have for how the season is going to shape up leading into the last 2 episodes. And okay, Baba, any more puns or should we say bye?
No, we can say bye-bye.
Bye? Okay, see you. Tada, bye-bye. Wall drag.
ब्रो, उस वॉल ड्रैग ने वॉल में से पानी निकाला, देखा, एक और पन था.
Oh.